Hello everyone, this is the second week of Kendo Talks. Today we have Gareth Allwood-Swires, Shodan national coach who is the dojo leader of Shiroka in, near Glasgow. I can't remember exactly where it is, sorry. I can point you to the exact direction, but I'm bad with place names. He'll be talking about Jigeiko this week.
Hello. Okay. Yeah. So I run Shiroka it's in Bells Hill where we practice, which is in North Lanarkshire, on the border of North Lanarkshire and South Lanarkshire. Okay. Right. So if I just bring up my. Is that the right one? Great. Okay. Right. So, today, I'm going to give you some thoughts on Jigeiko and more your approach to this for different grades up to and including third Dan. So, first of all, I guess we need to ask ourselves, what is Jigeiko? Because it kind of looks like a fight, and depending on your relationship with whomever it is that you're doing Jigeiko with, sometimes it's fairly close to being a friendly fight. But Jigeiko is primarily it's a method for transforming the skills you've learned through Kion from just a purely technical exercise into a practical thing that you can do and actually succeed with. Basically, learning how to make beautiful cuts through Kion doesn't mean you're ever going to land it for real. Learning how to perform seme in the class doesn't mean you'll actually be able to affect your opponent mentally in order to make an opportunity to strike. Learning how to master all the techniques in the world does not mean that you'll master yourself and calm the kind of confusion or fear or doubt or whatever it is that plagues you when you're facing someone who wants to hit your back. So when you go into Jigeiko, there are some factors that you want to consider. So firstly, what grade are you? Because the goals you have in Jigeiko are going to be different if you're Ikkyu to if you're Sandan or above. What grade is your partner? And this can change fundamentally what it is that you're doing in the Keiko. How old are you and your partner? So primarily here, I'm referring to, are you doing Jigeiko with a child? Because that does make a big difference. And though the talk won't focus on it, you should also be aware if your partner's quite elderly, I guess. Now, the chances are, if they are quite elderly, they may well be experienced enough to cope with whatever you can throw at them, but that's no given. So you don't want to go around decking old people, because that's not going to improve your kendo, and it's just not very nice. And is there a large difference between the pair of you in terms of build or strength? So, I mean, this may be, the obvious example is a big burly man against a not so burly woman, but it counts for if you're fighting like a younger teen. They're old enough not to consider them a child. You're still going to be able to deck them really easily, and you don't want to do that. That's not the point of Jigeiko. You don't learn anything. So you need to consider these factors. But the talk's going to primarily be focusing on your grade and the grade of your partner. Terminology, because we're talking about grade differences, so I'm going to use words in a particular way. So junior, I'm not going to be referring to children when I use the term junior. I'll actually say child or children for that. I'm actually talking about people who are more than one grade lower than yourself. Hello. Are you waving at me, Izzy? Hello? Oh, I can't hear you, Izzy. There's something wrong on my end, is there? I can hear you. Yes. Right. Okay. How far did I get before it cut out? Okay. So I'll start at the beginning of this slide again. So terminology. So if I use the term junior, it doesn't refer to a child. I'll use the word child for that. It refers to anyone who's more than one grade lower than yourself. So if you are third Dan, it's referring to anyone first Dan or lower. A peer is anyone either the same grade as yourself or one grade higher or one grade lower. And there's a reason for that to be like that range rather than just the people at the same level. And that's because if you're doing Keiko with someone who is the next grade up from you, you should be looking to become as good as them. Yeah. So you should be fighting up to their level. And similarly, if you're doing Keiko with someone one grade lower than you want to fight at your true level because they need to fight up to your level. Yeah. And that's partly how we improve in that kind of peer group thing. So it's very valuable to fight people, to do Keiko with people who are one grade higher than you. And you should be valuable to the people who are one grade lower than you. So then we've got senior. So when I say senior, simply anyone who's more than one grade higher than yourself. So yeah, there's a significant skill gap there. Okay, so we'll first talk about Keiko when you are below first Dan. So Mudan, no grade, or Ikkyu, up to Ikkyu. Okay. So general thoughts. When you're doing Keiko, you want to perform the best strikes you are able to perform. Okay, that should be pretty much your primary goal, is to really be working to bring that Kihon skill that you're gaining in the classes into a practical form. So you want to concentrate on using precise footwork at all times. Know the different types of footwork, know the differences between those types. But in particularly, you want to be concentrating on good fumikiri. That's the push off with your left foot when you launch for your attack. A good fumakomi, and by good, I don't mean powerful. Don't worry about the noise, but I mean your foot comes down nice and flat, and it's got a good kiken taichi. Yeah, so as the right foot touches the floor, your sword is landing and your ki is being voiced. Furthermore, don't be a deer in the headlights. Dead easy at this level to kind of stand in front of someone much more experienced than yourself and just be thinking, I don't know what I'm meant to be doing. What should I attack now? Should I not? And you just end up doing nothing. So be courageous. Yeah, be brave. Don't fear just going for it, and don't fear failing. We all fail. We all make cuts that don't land. It's a thing that happens. You need to a certain extent, do that. You need to fail and learn how to deal with that. That's part of the journey of Kendo, is to overcome that sort of thing. And lastly, don't worry if it don't make sense yet. Certainly when you're first starting, some people, they take to it like a duck to water. I know for myself that I was probably doing Jigeiko for a few months, and I just felt like I was just attacking randomly. I didn't really understand what I was meant to be doing, and it took a little while, but it came to me, and it will come to you too if you're one of those people who is just starting Jigeiko and kind of feel like you don't understand what's going on. Okay, so against a peer, obviously at this level there's no one that's going to classify as a junior to you. So the first point is try to capture the shodachi ippon, the first point of the match. You stand up from Sonkyo and you want to fight that first point as if it's real, as if you both stood there holding big sharp swords pointing at one another. Okay, that's really important. And while it's not on the other slides, that should be carried through your entire Kendo career. Yeah, that shodachi ippon, super important. So in terms of basic technique, I would recommend that you use middling to large cuts. Don't use super small cuts at this level. You've not got the tenouchi yet, or the wrist strength to make it convincing. So you're going to need a little bit of a swing in there in order to land things with a sufficient cutting force to be good. But accuracy, that's super important. Really concentrate on making sure that you're hitting the dartatsu bui, the scoring zone on the armor, and also not hitting off armor, because people are not going to thank you for that. Good posture. Bad posture is a hard habit to break later down the line. So start now. Keep good posture throughout your keiko as best you are able. Don't duck, don't bend. And concentrate on correct handling of the shinai. Yeah, make sure that your hands are in the correct position. Your left hand doesn't slide up. Your right hand doesn't slide down, and that you're not holding from the side, but your wrists are over the top of the ska, the handle of the shinai. And do not defend. Yeah, you've not got the skills to do proper counter-attacking yet. You don't want to build a habit of blocking. Pretty much 99 out of 100 things you do in your keiko should be some form of positive forward kendo, because that's a great habit to get. Against a senior, so my main advice here is, firstly, don't become discouraged when struck. Yeah, they're going to strike you, and it's going to be almost impossible for you to stop them. So don't take it the wrong way. When you're struck, think, why did I get cut? Yeah, did I do something there that meant that they decided to cut me? And how can I stop that happening again? So normally, without defense, so normally that will be some correction to your kamae. Yeah, maybe you're standing with your shinai, not the tip of your shinai is off to the right, showing them your men, or pushing over to the left, showing them the kote. So, how can I stop that? And that's a very important thought kind of cycle that you should continue to do throughout your kendo career, is this series of questions. When you get struck, was it something I did? Is it something I can improve? Don't become discouraged if you're offered openings. I know it can sometimes feel like the person in front of you is kind of feeling like you're not worth their time because they're just showing you targets. Almost always it's done in the best possible spirit. They don't really think that. They're trying to encourage you. But even if they are one of these very rare people who are just kind of a bit dismissive, you can still use that sort of practice to your advantage by trying to be ready to launch instant strikes. As soon as the opening starts to be opened, you should be launching your strike. Before they've finished moving their shinai out of the way, you should be launching that strike. And that's a really good skill to have for that instant attacking. Show them the strongest spirit possible. Show them that you are engaged in what's going on and you're not just kind of going through the motions. Also, showing good, strong spirit has a reinforcing psychological effect on yourself, and it keeps your mind on the job. If you're making nice, big, strong ki, it keeps you focused on what you should be doing. Listen to their advice. If they give you advice, listen to it. Not all advice works for all people all the time. However, if you take in all the different advice you get over time, and you'll get the same bit of advice over and over, trust me, that which works for you will start to stick. And don't get frustrated if they block you. I know I've told you not to defend, but sometimes a teacher will just block you, with no counterattack. There's often a really good reason why they did. You've attacked out of time, or you've attacked along a bad line, or something like that. So think about why they might have done that, and don't copy them. Okay, against children. So this is important at the beginner level. You should think about this. Children should not be struck with strength. Their bones are not as tough as adults, and because of the height difference, it's very easy to hit them, especially with men, badly. If you hit a child's men too hard, because of the height difference, often the force is transferred to the back of the men where the padding is not as thick. You can really rattle them, and that is going to discourage them, depending on their age. Never ski a child. You're just going to deck them. Yeah. They're also, their throats are not, so if you ski me and miss, I'm capable of tightening my throat muscles and protecting myself. The child's not going to be able to do that. So never ski a child, and also refrain from hard taiatari. You can give them a little taiatari, but if you do it hard because of the height difference, you're going to put them on their back, and we don't want that. Even if you see the odd teacher do that to children, they kind of know a bit better. They may have a better knowledge of that child. Don't copy teachers in that respect if you ever see that. Now, you'll occasionally meet children who feel they're more experienced than you. Now, considering your Mudan to Ikkyu, they may well be more experienced than you. Doesn't mean you can brutalize them because they're not as strong as you, but don't be like offended if they feel like they're better than you, because they probably are. Okay, so let's talk about Shodan level Jigeiko. So you've got a bit more experience now. So primarily, you're still going to want to be looking to work on your primary cutting actions, your men cuts and your kote cuts, but bringing them to a high level of skill, as high a level of skill as you're able to. Still concentrating on fumakiri, still concentrating on fumakomi, starting to use tenuchi, this squeezing action and the snapping of the wrists to give the tip speed as it strikes the target. And good zanshin, not hitting and relaxing, but hitting and accelerating and making a good distance and turning to address your opponent so that you can defend or counterattack, or just plain out attack if they have been too distracted by the fact that you cut them. You want to look to increase the speed as well. When you attack, it should be a fast action. It should be quite explosive. Start practicing multiple attacks. Kote men, ni sandan waza, kote men, kote do. You, at this point, they're likely to be fairly calculated, but that's okay. You keep practicing them, and they'll become more natural, and you'll be able to do them with less forward thinking over the multiple attacks, and have a plan or a goal. Okay. So don't go into, and this is actually more about the whole lesson rather than just Jigeiko, but think of something you don't like about your Kendo and then work on improving it. This is in addition to whatever you're taught by your teacher, but work on improving something. Have something concrete that you can work on rather than just turning up, doing what you're told, going through the motions. So against the junior. So you're going to be, slightly better than them. This is for a junior. For Shodan, we're talking Mudan level. So they're very new. They don't know what they're doing. So don't just hammer them. It'll be relatively easy for you to just fly at them and just bang, bang, bang. And all you're going to do is discourage them. Don't just use your extra speed. Don't don't make an attack that would never work against anyone but a Mudan, and get there just because you have the speed to do it. This is not meaningful. So start trying to take the center line away from them before you strike them. So move their shinai off, and I'm not necessarily talking about shikakiwaza, though you can certainly use shikakiwaza, harai, maki, things like that. But getting their shinai, your shinai in the center and their shinai out of the center, then striking them. This is a good skill to practice, and a Mudan is an ideal candidate to practice that with, because they're not going to be able to defend in the way that, to defend the center line, that is, in the way that a peer or a senior will. Don't use tricks for the same reason that you shouldn't just hammer them. This is, it's not, you're not gaining anything by using tricks. Don't wave your shinai around the houses and while they follow the shinai with their eyes, then hit them. Nobody's gaining anything from that. If they launch a nice looking attack, consider letting it land. Give them something to encourage them. Oh, I managed to hit someone. They don't even necessarily need to know that you let them land it. It's okay. Don't let everything through. It's not uchikomi. Yeah, I hit you, you hit me. But if they launch something that looks nice, don't be mean. Don't just block it out for the sake of it. If they do catch you and you weren't expecting it, don't then feel like you have to I've got to get that point back. Yeah. No, you don't. We all get hit. Yeah. Do not teach in Jigeiko. Don't interrupt the flow of your Jigeiko to teach them. Generally speaking, you're not going to be at the level where you should be offering advice anyway, unless something's really obvious, like they're standing with their feet the wrong way around, or they've got their hands the wrong way around, or something like that. But normally speaking, there will be, and I accept there are some clubs where maybe the highest grade is first dan and you've got to make do, and that's a different thing. But generally there's going to be someone higher than first dan there. Let them give the advice, but do encourage them. Yeah. And that can even be verbal. Yeah. Come on, you can do it. Yeah. You want them to stick with it so that we've all got more people to practice with. More people to practice with. Okay, against a peer, right. So explosive movement. When you attack, it should be from standstill to 1,000,000 miles an hour, like someone has ignited a rocket pack that's strapped to your back. But it should still be accurate. Yeah, you should be still concentrating on making the most accurate strikes you can. Your cuts don't need to necessarily be quite as big now. You should be using more tenuchi. They're not going to be super tiny cuts, but they're not. You don't have to swing quite as much as a Mudan or an Ikkyu. Use your footwork to gain an advantageous position so that you can get a more sure strike. Yeah. So move forwards, backwards, left, right, diagonal lines. Yeah. So move around, and when you see that line, then instantly an explosively fast positive attack, and practice multiple attacking, like I said earlier. So kote men and kote do. Yeah. The next grade you'll be going for will be Nidan, and doing kote men is like almost, it's not a necessary thing, but it's like the kind of stereotypical image of what Nidan gradings look like. Okay, so when you're doing keiko with a senior, they may well seem slower than you. And by slower, I don't mean they move slower when they attack. I mean, they're attacking less. That doesn't mean you have to slow down. Still jockey for position and make nice, fast cuts. Okay, you'll probably be attacking more than them. So this is my personal opinion. Fighting a senior or a teacher, more specifically, is kind of like throwing yourself against a brick wall over and over and over again until you figure out a way to knock it down. Not just that one time, but reliably figure out a way to knock it down. And this is kind of an important thing in the kind of culture of kendo training, is to keep throwing yourself against the strongest people you can find, to drag your level up. So against children, the main point here is your cutting power will be naturally increasing, okay, because your tenuchi will be getting better. So you must control yourself. Yeah, you must not use that full tenuchi power. Use the tenuchi. One way that I've seen high grade people fighting is to swing at full speed, but stop the sword just short of the target with a child, and let the natural flex of the shinai just tap the target. But you may not be capable of that yet. Just make sure you don't batter them. Okay, so moving on now to Nidan. Now that you're Nidan, you need to be attacking with some form of rationale. Yeah, there should be some reason for your attacks. Yeah, they shouldn't be random. And if you do this, you will move toward the ratio of successful to unsuccessful attacks should increase in favor of successful attacks. Okay. Basically, if you're doing Keiko with someone and you make an attack and your teacher stops you and says, "Why did you attack then?" You should have some reason why that attack happened. It shouldn't be just, "Oh, it just felt," yeah. Maybe, "Oh, I saw them in." Yeah. Or I felt pressure. I thought I could get kote. Sensible use of Ojiwaza. Yeah. So while you're going to primarily be doing Shikakiwaza at this level, or you should be, use Ojiwaza, sure. Just don't use it all the time. Yeah. Don't just stand there waiting for them and to do some counter. Okay. So against a junior, you want to come out of the Keiko having made all your attacks successfully. Yeah. With no fails. It won't happen, or it won't often happen, but that's what you want to aim for. Yeah. Which means, again, with this not attacking randomly. So your attack should be meaningful. Yeah. Again, you may be able to attack them very rapidly and hit every single time. Yeah. Especially if they're Mudan. But there's no point to that. There's no meaning to it. You're just moving faster than them. Yeah. So control yourself. And again, don't use tricks. Okay. You may think I don't like tricks. That's not true. Tricks have their place, but you shouldn't use them against juniors in order to score cheap points, and you shouldn't use them a lot. Try to expand the number of waza that you can use. Yeah. So some people use a lot of waza, some people don't. I've never used an especially large number of, by waza I mean like harai and makiotosh and things like that. But when you're fighting a junior, it's a great opportunity to take the waza you're maybe not so good at and practice them in a more realistic setting to bring them up to a level where you might be able to deploy them for real. And again, refrain from over teaching. Now, obviously, accepting situations where the Nidan might be the highest grade in the club. Even so, during Keiko, if you break every 2 minutes to tell them what they're doing wrong, it interrupts the flow of the Keiko. Yeah. And you want to get as much done in each Keiko as possible. So against a peer, right. So attacks should be made very quickly and using good zanshin. Yeah. A lot of very strange zanshin happens at this level. People dancing around with a shinai, pointing in a random direction, screaming their head off as if that's going to turn it into ippon. So it should be good zanshin where you accelerate through the cut, turn and address them promptly so that they cannot attack you or you can attack them straight away. Attempt to dominate the center line throughout the Keiko. Yeah. Get your shinai in the middle. If your shinai is pointing directly at them, yeah, at one end and directly at you at the other end, it's going to be very difficult for them to actually attack you. Okay. Try to attack only when there's opportunity. Okay, so at this level, there's still quite a lot going on in your Keiko. Yeah, it's still very dynamic, but that doesn't mean it's random. Yeah, so you want to attack control yourself. Yeah, move around, find the position, dominate the center line, and when you've got the opportunity, then go. Not just kind of pointless random attacking. Yeah. If you do fail though, don't let that be it. Yeah. If you make an attack and it doesn't land, that's not the end of the story. At that point, follow it up with so you maybe go for kote and they step back. At this point, immediately go for men. And if you collide with them, hiki men. Yeah. So there's a rhythm more like, so if you land the cut, obviously, pa, one beat. Yeah. But maybe pa, 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 pa. Yeah, this kind of very rapid attacking. This will promote flexibility in your Kendo that will be very useful, especially in Shiai. But speaking of which, Keiko is not Shiai. Remember that. It's very often Nidan that kind of gets forgotten a little bit. Yeah, the point is to practice your techniques, maybe in preparation for Shiai, but it's not directly Shiai. Granted, sometimes, I mean, we all have people that we get a little bit extra competitive with when we do Keiko, but generally speaking, it's not Shiai. Practice what you've been taught. Yeah, if you're taught something in a class, do it in Jigeiko. Yeah, you should be at this level able to at least practice any technique that you might be taught. It shouldn't be beyond you at least giving it a go. So practice what you've been taught. It's the only way you'll master those skills. Also, teachers really like to see students do what they've just been teaching. So against a senior, still attempt to dominate the centerline throughout. You're going to find it maybe difficult to do. But that doesn't mean you should give yourself an easy time and start going around their kamae in order to land touches on them. Yeah. Try to get the center line and attack through the center line. Will give you a nice, powerful attack. And try to refrain from attacking. This is kind of the same point, but try and refrain from attacking when you don't have at least some sense that you've controlled something. The center line, the distance, something. Yeah. Don't kind of, it's a trap that we all fall into sometimes. We're there, we're doing our Keiko, nothing's happening. After a while, we lose confidence and we just kind of go for it. Yeah. It's not going to work. When you're doing Keiko with children, at this level, you can start to push them a little within reason. If we were in Japan, children would regularly end up being in tears by the end of a Keiko session. And the Japanese parents kind of want that. It's not kind of how it works in this country. If you do that, then you're going to lose the student. Yeah. So push them, make them work. Don't let them take an easy time, but don't push them so hard that it's all too much for them. Okay. So let's move on to Sandan. This is the last section. So at this point in Keiko, Seme is vitally important. Your next grade is Yondan. That's basically the Seme grade. Yeah, it's primarily graded on your ability to do Seme. So you need to practice it. You need to cut with it. You need to cut straight as well. And if you cut with Seme, you will cut straight. Yeah, you can't. It doesn't really work otherwise. But more so, I often see people in the Sandan level, and they've picked up some odd habits from by this point where they're not cutting straight. Yeah, you need to stop that. You need to cut straight, and you need to control your partner wherever possible. Yeah. So when you're doing Keiko with the junior, at this point, so you're not such a low level, as a Japanese teacher once said to me at that point. So try and lift their level. Yeah. Try and use your Kendo effectively to encourage them where necessary, and to give them a challenge where necessary. It's very difficult, but it's more of an experience thing at this point. It's kind of hard to explain how you do that, but it is a skill that you develop. Allow them to occasionally take your center line if they work for it. Yeah. Give them that sense that it's worth trying to take the center line. But if they don't immediately capitalize on that, take it straight back, and preferably then cut them. Yeah. To teach them the error of their ways. Don't overuse Ojiwaza. You're just going to discourage them, but do use Ojiwaza. Yeah. It's important that they experience that, what it's like to have Ojiwaza deployed against them. Attempt to make every attack with Seme and a strong sense of control. Yeah. So they're less experienced than you. You should be able to exert some form of control over them and make them react in some way that is predictable. Okay, apart from maybe like rank beginners, Mudan, they may react unexpectedly because they've got less experience. But other people, you should be able to get them to do something, maybe not all the time, but every so often you'll be able to get them to do something in exactly the way you wanted. Yeah. And that's where you need to get that skill and build that skill. When you're doing Keiko with a peer, you need to control who has the center line at all times, not necessarily be on the center line all the time. Sometimes you want to give them the center line. Yeah. So seme is not just about instilling fear in someone. Sometimes it's about instilling overconfidence in them. So if you can, at the correct time, relinquish the center line just a little, so they go for men and you can do Sureagi men or Kaishido, then this is a good use of Ojiwaza. Yeah. So it's about controlling, you're in control of the space between you, even when your shinai is not the one that's most central. So as I kind of went over this second point already. So you're using this to control your opponent. Make them react in some way. So the example about them going for men, that's an obvious reaction. If you can make them go for men when you want, yeah, that's an obvious reaction. Nice Ojiwaza. But you can make them step back, yeah, and you can take men, yeah. Normally at this point, you're going to want to take the center line nice and strong. You can make them stop moving, yeah. So perhaps you retreat half a step, and as they follow, you step in very strong, and this kind of stalls their movement forward, and you can cut them. That's called kaishizeme, yeah. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that, but often I get the feeling of building my way towards an ippon. Yeah, this is this process of seme. It's almost like putting bricks down. Yeah, little action here, movement there, pressure here, release there, until eventually, suddenly you have a house of bricks and you cut them. Yeah, it's this feeling of building it up. Try to make your attacks conform to some image in your mind. I have an image when I try an attack. It's often Toshiro Sensei or Eiga Sensei or Furukawa Sensei. They're the ones that come to my mind when I'm making attack. I try to kind of move or look like them. I fail very miserably, but at least that's in the back of my mind what I'm trying to do. Okay, against a senior, do not expect mercy. Not at this level. You should be able to take anything they're giving you. So you may well have a keiko where you just get battered 2 minutes. You don't land anything. And you then, to rub salt into the wound, they may tell you that you're rubbish and they don't know why you even bother and turning up to practice. So do expect criticism, okay? But the correct response here is to come back and show them that you are worth the time and effort, yeah? Come back and have improved. Find all the ways that they beat you before and don't have those weaknesses next time. Yeah, at this point you should be expected to be pushed is the takeaway, but also don't count every strike that lands as acceptable, because you will be able to hit them. Yeah, in the give and take of it, it's going to happen. Was it really ippon? Yeah, and even if it would have maybe countered in a shiai, did you attack through seme? Were you doing what you should do? Yeah, you need to be very kind of self-aware of accepting poor quality cuts as something to be proud of. I've often said to people, I'm happy if I get one cut I'm really proud of in a session or a week. So make sure that you hold yourself to a high standard. Okay, so that's kind of my thoughts on Jigeiko, and kind of the approach that I think is useful. The summary version, I guess, is in some ways, juniors, you need to practice in such a way that you still gain benefit from it. Yeah, when you're practicing with someone junior, and seniors, you need to push yourself and try and become them, basically. But if anyone has any questions, then I am very happy to take them. I will stop sharing my screen. Ha! I'm back.
I don't think there are any questions rolling in so far. Everyone's very much just been like sitting back and yes, knowledge. Yes, these are things I should know. Oh yes, I'm becoming smart now. Oh, I can feel my Kendo leveling up. Maybe question: at what rank do you think Kendo is less about conquering techniques rather than conquering oneself? Personally, I think that's like at the start almost.
So I would say from a practical point of view, it's well, there's no one point where it changes in that way, and it is slightly different for different people. But trying to paint as broad a brushstroke, when you pass your Sandan, you are expected to be technically perfect. That's a very high word to use, but no one expects perfection. But at Sandan, to pass Sandan, you should be able to prove that you are capable of doing a wide variety of techniques to a high level, to a high standard. For the next sort of grades on, for the grades on from that, it becomes more about control of your opponent. Now, your question specifically was about controlling yourself. For Sandan, as well as that technical perfection, a strong component of it is the control of yourself, so that you're attacking when there are opportunities and not attacking when there are not opportunities. So there's an overlap there, but it's around that sort of Sandan level, I would say, roughly. Good question.
Very nice question. Are there about any other questions? None in the Discord, none in the stream chat. Can I ask? Okay, so I have like a set of lovely questions. So, who would you say has impacted your Kendo the most in the last 2 years?
Oh, in the last 2 years?
Yes.
Oh,
okay. It's a very easy one to say, oh no, everyone has impacted my Kendo. But nah, time limit.
I mean, if it said in the last 10, I could definitely give you a person. But in the last 2 years, So I'm lucky in that I have quite a tight peer group that have been a very big sort of impact to me. People at or around my own grade with our own super secret communications. Yeah. But in terms, if I were to try and narrow one person, I'd say, and probably I would probably say, that's a difficult one. Toshiro Sensei, I've had quite a few interactions with him, and he's always managed to find something that has directly impacted my kendo in a positive way, which is, I mean, it's a skill that a lot of very high graded teachers have, and I think it's probably a function that I've trained with Toshiro Sensei slightly more than other teachers of his level, or even approaching his level. So I'd say if I was to pick one, it would be probably Toshiro Sensei.
For people who don't know who Toshiro Sensei is, he comes to the UK just about every year, but was cancelled halfway through it because of COVID. And we don't know when he'll next be training with us. And he also does own a bowl glue company, so if you ever want to get completely custom-made bowl glue, I think Toshiro Sensei is a pretty good bet.
Tempudo, I think. Tempudo is his shop name.
Yeah, he's got 3 different types of bogu.
It's not big range, but it is a good one.
All custom made, but like three different levels. So like there's good, there's really, really good, and then there's like god tier bogu, I'm pretty sure. Still no more questions.
One day I'll be able to afford it.
I think if I manage to sell my kidney, I will be able to afford it. Yeah. So could you, I think you touched on it a bit, but could you speak a bit more on teaching without speaking during Jigeiko?
Oh, teaching without speaking. Okay, so it's a difficult skill. So generally speaking, teaching without speaking is a 2-person process. Yeah, you need someone who's receptive to hearing what you're not saying. Primarily, it's about revealing weaknesses. For me, this is about revealing weaknesses in your opponent that require fixing in a relatively obvious way, not overdoing it. But so, for example, say that Shinai is held very strongly. Yeah. One way you can do this is by plying the Shinai over and then letting it spring back across and hitting their kote. Okay. And if they're switched on, they're going to realize what's happening there, because it's quite a blunt, obvious, very effective, but quite an obvious technique to use. So that kind of showing them that there's something wrong by capitalizing on why it's wrong, preferably in a way that they're going to realize, and it's not so fast that they just think that you've just hit them because you're fast. So that's one way. It's a really kind of in-depth. It's certainly, I'm no genius at doing that. If you train with like an 8th Dan, you always come away with loads of knowledge and a really good feeling about how you can improve, and they've never said anything to you. And it's a really weird kind of experience to go through. Even from my side, it's a kind of strange experience to go through. But you often come out very buoyed up with loads of ideas bubbling through your brain. So they're really good at it. But it's a difficult skill. Could they hear me?
They can still hear you, but like so that nobody can hear my typing, but they can now hear me explaining why they couldn't hear me. Somebody's asking, I find it difficult to score if practicing with another Kendoka and we're left to score ourselves. Any tips on how I can keep an eye on my own Kendo whilst trying to discern whether my opponent's strike is good hit or not? So like basically, how do we judge our own ippon? How do we know ourselves if it's an ippon?
Okay, so now if we're talking in the context of Jigeiko, yeah, don't be too concerned about whether your opponent's ippon was ippon. Yeah, there's a danger sometimes that when we focus on that, we end up having a kind of a conversation with ourselves in our head that goes something along the lines of, oh, he hit me, but it was kind of off center, so it wasn't really a very good hit. I'm okay, I'm going to keep going. Oh, he hit me, but it was just like maybe slightly off, like just on the edge of the kote, so it doesn't really count. You're so concerned with how they're not scoring on you that you're not concerned with improving. It doesn't matter if they score 1,000 times. I often kind of feel to myself, if someone hits me, whether or not it's cut, whether or not it's ippon, I'm just going to think, right, there's something I need to improve. Yeah. Now, in terms of like letting your opponent know whether or not they are actually making good cuts on you, generally speaking, if you're struggling to make those distinctions, then you're not at a level where you should really be telling people, oh, that wasn't really a good ippon. Yeah. You should be more concentrating on your own practice. So even like if you're first dan and you're with a mudan, unless there's something really blatant, just it's fine. Yeah. I mean, a mudan's never going to hit you to the standard of a fourth dan, for example. So, don't get caught up in this. Remember, Keiko's not a fight. There's no winner and there's no loser, apart from maybe in the Shodachi. Yeah. Even then, it's not like you're not going to get a trophy. So Keiko is practice. Jigeiko is practice. It is a form of Keiko, which means practice, or more specifically, to learn. I think it means something along the lines of like to learn from the past or something. So don't get caught up in it. Now, if you're doing like kind of mock shiai, that's kind of a different thing, and it's experience. It's also thinking about what constitutes ippon outside of the dojo. But for Jigeiko, don't get tied up in that. Don't consider whether what you do is ippon. Yeah, that's fine. You should do that. But the time to do that is after the break, like after you've done your zanshin, and it's not immediately going back into an engagement. You've got like a second there to think, really, was the kick and tie? Okay, and then you're back in. You can think just a little bit, but the actual recognition is experience. Did that answer the question? Okay.
So, at lower grades, are there any common bad habits that are hard to break later on? And what are the best ways of correcting them?
Okay, so as amply demonstrated by our host, so one of the big ones is posture, and that's super difficult to change later, though not impossible. So do try. It's better to keep posture good from the start. That's an easier path to tread. Poor kikantai. Yeah, this is another one. People struggle to get kikantai. The specifically the fumokomi landing at the same time as the cut, and you need to think about that and try to fix it. And it's not really or primarily the job of your teacher to fix that for you. They can't like put your foot down at the right time for you. Like that's not a thing that can happen. They can give you as much advice as they can, but as with a lot of physical things, it's up to you to implement that advice, and it's up to you to think about it outside of practice. So, story I've often told people who know me. I used to practice fumokomi, that action of pushing the fumokiri fumokomi all the time. I would walk around supermarkets doing it. Yeah, holding a trolley, boom, until after a long time, I finally got asked politely to stop it by my wife because I was getting odd looks. But I practiced it. I thought about it all the time, and that's really important for improving, especially in those early period of kendo. Practicing outside of the dojo and at least thinking about it. So fumokomi, weak fumokomi, by which I don't mean strength at which your foot is the floor. I mean weak timing wise. people take too long to get this, and it's difficult, but it's not so difficult that you shouldn't be able to get at least a good approximation. The other one is hand position. So we've done feet, body, and now hands. So hand position, holding the shinai from the kind of outside like this rather than here. Okay, if you can see that in the camera. Don't hold like this. Lots of beginners do this. Very bad for your kendo. Here, yeah, so that your wrists, as you attack and your hands come forward, your wrists should be behind the tsuka, yeah, like this. That's a dreadful habit. So I think they're the ones that jump out at me the most. Like almost all beginners do those three things.
The next question we're going to go on to is, what can you do to actually improve your cuts in normal practice and in Jigeiko?
Wow, what wide question. Wide question.
I think it's more to do with either training techniques or the mentality that you need to actually like focus on it, because you can listen to a teacher and go, yes, this is what they want me to do, but then not take it to heart and then not understand what they're wanting, I guess.
So the best thing to do to improve your cuts, frankly, is uchikomi geiko. Lots and 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 lots of uchikomi geiko. Yeah. So probably, so kirikaishi also helps. It's a more wide thing, but uchikomi geiko is purely about cutting. Cut target. See, there's another target. Cut the target. There's another target. Cut the target. So you just, through dint of repetition. But it's not just a mindless thing. You can't just do uchikomi without a thought in your head and expect to improve. So understanding what a cut looks like. Yeah. That's, some people don't really have I think a strong image in their head to copy with their body. So watching really good people cutting, either in person or on YouTube, there's tons of videos on YouTube. Not so much the shiai videos, yeah, it's not the shiai, but if you can find kihon videos, like practices of people doing kihon, yeah, find the best of those. And there's Chiba Sensei's Perfect Master on YouTube somewhere, for example. There's a dozen other practice things. Watch and concentrate on how they move the sword through the air, yeah, and get a really nice strong image, yeah. So the stronger the image in your head is, the clearer it will be for you to copy when you're practicing yourself, yeah. I think that's probably one of the most important. I always felt like from relatively early, not for day one, obviously, but I had an image of how I wanted to cut, and that's changed over time for sure as I've become exposed to new ideas and new people. And I've updated that mental image of how I want to cut. So, but I'd mentioned this at some point in the talk. Like, I think of the three teachers that I think of generally, one of whom I've met and trained with, Toshiro Sensei, Eiga Sensei, and Furukawa Sensei. Yeah, like a kind of jelly, kind of.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Mashup of their techniques is kind of like a combination of what they're doing is kind of what I see in my head when I think of what it is that I want to do in terms of my cut. Now, that strong image gives you something to work towards when you're doing the uchikomi.
Okay.
because your character changed during your long watch for the mastery course, that I did think it was kind of missouri.
He's flipping our fuel cells around.
That one's maybe more accurate.
Okay. Is that pressure coming down?
And also, what drink is that as well? The same person was asking.
This is the only beer you should drink in the moment.
If you believe that into pressure, we blew a...
How has my character changed? Okay, though I didn't know it, when I first started Kendo, I had an ego problem. Yeah, I didn't like to be told I was wrong or that I was doing something wrong. And apparently, if you're told it enough, that kind of goes away. So that was a very early thing. Like the process of finding out that this wasn't going to be an easy thing that I could just do helped me overcome and being defeated as I thought of it at the time in Jigeiko, back when I wasn't experienced and I had the wrong attitude about Jigeiko, being basically repeatedly cut, and it forced me to confront the fact that I ain't all that, and I'm still not. I understand that I'm a fifth dan. I'm a fifth dan because I stuck at it. I have no... Kendo is not a natural thing for me. Kendo is not a thing that... I mean, it's more natural for me than some people, but by no means am I some extraordinarily talented person in Kendo. I just didn't quit. I'm the kind of person who doesn't get too bored coming in to the dojo every week and doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again until I get some modicum of skill at it. So that, and also that dedication, that's another thing that I don't think I've ever stuck with anything like I've stuck with Kendo. In fact, I know I haven't. I've never invested so much time and frustration and tear and joy as well, but I've never had that dedication for anything before. So that was definitely a new thing that changed, because I mean I wasn't really a person to stick at things in that way before starting Kendo. So I don't know for the rest. You'd have to ask me in another 20 years. I kind of look around sometimes and find myself surprised to be where I am and not where all the beginners are. So.
So that's great. Is there any more questions before we wrap up? Oh, they said it was wholesome.
It was, sorry, they said it was what?
Wholesome.
Wholesome. I like it. I like that being wholesome. I'll take that one.
That's great. So if you've got any more questions before we wrap up? Remembering that we're on a slight time delay. I don't think so. I can't see any on Discord either. So thank you all for coming. I hope you've enjoyed this. We will be doing another one for at least the next couple of weeks, and we're hoping to do it for the foreseeable future, i.e. Corona times. So please come. It's going to be round about this time every week. Sometimes we're doing it on Saturday, but that's just because of different time zones. But yeah, check in, bring other people from your dojo, and drag them to listen and make them ask questions, especially the beginners. Because this is kind of what this is here for. Thank you all for coming. I hope you have enjoyed. Thank you very much, Gareth, for coming and talking. Very much appreciated.
Pleasure.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.